Hey guys, and welcome to the Delta Review. My name is Apprentice, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite family games, Wasabi. Wasabi. In this game, players are chefs, and they have certain ingredients that they have to make into their recipes. They do this by lining up certain ingredients on the board to complete their recipes, and if you do it in style, you get extra wasabi cubes, which are really, really cool. So let's jump in the box and see what's inside. To begin Wasabi, each person receives one menu, which includes slots for your recipes, and then recipes on the side here. He receives 10 of his recipe chips. These are the recipes that he can complete during the game. He receives one wasabi bowl. This is my favorite component of the game, and 2, this is where the wasabis will go when you get them during the game. Then each person receives 3 recipes and 3 ingredients of his choice. On your turn of wasabi, you can do one of 2 things. The first thing you can do is you can place ingredients onto the board. So, you will always have ingredients in front of you. You will always have 3 tiles and 3 ingredients. And you will keep playing them on the board. Now, as you're playing them, if you've played one turn that completes a recipe, then you take the recipe out of your menu, and then you score it. And the way that you score it is you just take the recipe out, you put it in front of you, and then put the corresponding number token, so for instance this would be a 3, this 3 on top of the recipe. Once that happens, then you flip the tile over, and that's how many points you have scored for that recipe. Now, if you've completed that recipe on the order of the card, then you score it with style. What that means is that you take the number of wasabi cubes on the chip, and you put it into your bowl. So for 3, you get 1 wasabi cube. So I would get 1 wasabi cube into my bowl. Now that's one option you have in your turn. The second option you have is to replenish your recipes. So you can discard recipes to draw recipes back. So if you have drawn too many recipes of one number, or not enough of another number, then you can discard, say, 2 recipes and then draw 2 recipes back. It's a good way of keeping your recipes going, or if you see that you can't really use them on the board. Now, this is kind of boring as it is, but the way that spices this game up are the specialty cards. These cards are drawn each time that you complete a recipe. But you can only have 2 of these at a time, so you can't really hoard cards. Now let's go over these cards. First off, we have Spicy. This card lets you play 2 tiles in one turn instead of just 1. Switch lets you switch 2 squares. Their components, they just switch. So for instance, if these two were in the wrong position for me, I could switch them just like this. So that would be switch. You then have Stack. This lets you play tiles on top of other tiles. So in the course of the game, you could, of course, have 4 layers in one place. People just don't want that current tile there, so they could keep putting tiles on top of them. That's what Stack does. Only the top tile is the active tile, is the active scoring tile. And then finally you have Chop. With Chop, you name a square. So for instance, this square right here, you take the top ingredient off of that, and then this ingredient you can either put back in the pantry, in the kitchen, or you can use that tile to place it somewhere else on the board. What these cards are also good for is that if you in turn score a recipe with these cards, you can then score that recipe. So if you've completed a recipe with these cards, you can score the recipe as normal, and then you keep drawing recipes. If you've completed a recipe in your turn, then you keep drawing until you have 3, and then at the end of your turn, you should always have 3 ingredients. And this series of cards and ingredients is great, but the one thing that the game is known for, wasabi, that's what this game is about. Then you have the 1 wasabi card. Okay, what this does is you play it on 4 squares. These 4 squares can no longer be touched, can no longer be played on, can no longer be scored. So this card is a really, really bad card. But the only way to get a wasabi card off the board is if you score a recipe. If there is a wasabi card on the board and you score a recipe, you can in turn pull the wasabi card off and gain it for yourself. That's awesome. It's a really, really cool component of the game. Really cool mechanic. Now the game ends when either the first person completes his 10 recipe tokens, when these are all gone, or when all the squares are filled on the board. And the good thing about the wasabi is it counts for completed squares. So if these 4 squares are the only squares left to complete, you could play 1 wasabi in 1 turn and end the game there. Once that's done, you score the points on the back of your chips, and then you add 1 point for each Wasabi cube that you've accumulated. And that's the game of Wasabi. But, what did I think about Wasabi? Well, for me, I like it a lot. I'm a real gamer's gamer, so I love the really, really hardcore, thinking strategy games. This game is great for people who I think don't really like games a whole lot. Like my family, or some of my other gamer friends, or my other non-gamer friends, sorry. So people who, who played Monopoly, played Risk, kinda, and, I just want to introduce them to something else. This is on that level of Gateway, kind of. It's maybe a little higher than Gateway, but I like it a lot. It's really simple. It's really easy to explain, but the rules are enough that there's enough, there's enough replayability that it's okay. The game itself is gorgeous. I absolutely love the components of this game. From these little bowls for wasabi. These cubes are green. I've never seen green cubes before. These tiles are really, really hard plastic, and the artwork is gorgeous. I love I just love that part about this game. The board, everything is, I was blown away when I got this game. It's just so pretty. On the downside, some of you more, like me, really, really gamers aren't gonna like this a whole lot. You'll see how the game works, and kind of, you'll get bored with it after a couple plays. I haven't, because I have a lot of friends that don't play games, and so I get to play it a lot. But these cards, these specialty cards, give you lots of different outs, I guess you can say, of how to play the game, and ways of I guess manipulating the board to make it do what you want it to do. I like the restriction of how many points you can do. So for instance, if the board is filled, that's a game, any condition. But also these chips, these chips that you get, the number of recipes you can complete. That's also a really nice restriction to the game. So once these chips are gone, the game's over with. I like the with style aspect and the choice between that. So is it, the choice is whether should you try and go for the big 5 with style and get the big 3 extra points for it, or should you just go ahead and just get the 5 out of the way so you get those points faster and try and rush the game faster. That's one of the aspects of the game that you'll have to do for yourself. I also really, really love the opening setup. How you give a person to your left tiles, and they give you tiles instead of you choosing what you want. Kind of, it's interesting how it plays out. It's I guess you just have to see it how it works. But overall, I really like this game. It's pretty fast, about 30-45 minutes once everybody knows what's going on. But yeah, so Wasabi, it's great. I like it. It's a great family game. Again, if you guys want to purchase Wasabi, be sure to check out bestdanggames.com for the best gaming and service there is out there on the net. So until next time, have a good one.